Welcome to our series of presentations on digital marketing. Today we're going to talk about how to use pay-per-click data to improve SEO efficiency. Really, where we begin is with a simple thesis statement that a search engine optimization campaign is far more likely to generate a strong return if it is seeded with data from the pay-per-click channel. And this is based on a few premises. One is that there are benefits of using pay-per-click and SEO in tandem. We're acknowledging that SEO can be a significant cost center, and sometimes the costs are not very overt and there's no media spend per se, but it's important to recognize this fact. And also, ROI is generally more attainable in the long term when SEO is being discussed. Now, just to begin by looking at the channels side by side, let's begin with some of their similarities. What makes pay-per-click and SEO similar? They do rely on specific marketing objectives. There is always a need for a measurement plan and the analytics tracking to back that up. There is a need for accountable performance in order to really trace results back to some source. And there's crystal clear attribution, and by this I mean you can measure it with clicks or with conversions and really have a sense of what's happening in the background. What makes them different? Here's where the channels diverge. Pay-per-click, you've got a very clear cost structure. Generally, an SEM agency will charge you a fee to set up the program. There will be an overt monthly media spend, something which is highly customizable and can be changed at a moment's notice. And there are generally agency fees to manage that spend on a monthly basis. Also, you're getting short-term implementation and feedback, and these feedback loops are very quick and very dynamic. Active optimization and maintenance throughout the entire program. On the organic side of things, things are a little bit more ambiguous. The cost structure not quite as clear. You do get long-term cost savings and ROI, but you can't usually realize those or expect to realize them very quickly. And generally, there is an active period of short-term optimization and then long-term maintenance which follows. We'll get into this a little more in the next slide. If you look at the workflows in a pay-per-click effort versus organic, look at the chart on the bottom left where we see constant hands-on maintenance and a gradual improvement in ROI. When the red line eclipses the blue line, at that point we've actualized all of the returns that we're looking for in the pay-per-click channel. But it takes really a very hands-on kind of an optimization process to make this happen. With SEO, it's a little bit different. There's a lot of upfront work, and then generally the need for that work will disappear, and it becomes more of this maintenance that after the period of tapering off. However, there is a potential for exponential growth in SEO over time, in ROI in this SEO channel, as you build up your footprint online, get more and more content indexed in the search engines, and ultimately just grow that presence. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about the cost structure. SEO capabilities are still relatively rare, and firms that have proven case studies sometimes still hard to come by, and so they can often demand a very high price. And there is, because of the lack of a clear cost structure, it can be often very difficult to gain a clear sense of how things are really siloed in the methodology. So when we consider two facts that give a little bit of, they shed light on this situation. Consider the number of searchers who, when using a search engine, will click within the first page of results. That number, just a few years ago, under 50%, is now well beyond 2/3 and trending upward. Whereas if you look at the number of searchers who are willing to go past the first 3 pages, clearly that attention span has diminished. Used to be roughly 1 out of 5 just about 7 years ago, and now less than 1 out of 10 searchers are willing to click past the first 3 pages. This is the result of an iProspect study done in April of 2008, results still very relevant. So what happens when we incorporate organic search into an existing pay-per-click campaign? What can we expect? How will it compare to a standalone effort? Well, one thing that iCrossing found in a search synergy report that they did was that when using the two channels in tandem, you see an increase in page views, in visitors, and in time on site. Not only that, but looking at some more actionable metrics, consider clicks, actions, and orders. So almost double the number of clicks. Orders is very obvious. Actions you can consider to be any kind of an activity other than a purchase. So asking for a salesperson to contact you or downloading a white paper. These are generally seen as conversions when you're not necessarily selling your product in an online e-commerce type of setting. Let's look at a case study now, which would put things in better perspective. This is a fictitious company, Wildlife Tours. What they do is offer guided tours, a variety of destinations along the U.S. Pacific coast. They operate tours in different geographic regions, from California all the way up through British Columbia and Canada. And they have a competitive advantage in that they believe nobody can get their customers closer to the action. So what does their site look like? Well, they have from their homepage, they have access to a variety of pages detailing the services that they offer: bird watching, whale watching, and bear watching. And they do it in different locations. They have California, Washington, and British Columbia as the markets in which they operate. Because of this structure, they effectively have a matrix in which every service and location combination could be potentially represented. But what's most important about the way the site is structured and the way generally a smooth optimization process would end up from the user perspective is there is a clear conversion metric. In this case, a web-based form submission in which a customer or potential customer can request a price quote. At this point, they are now a lead, and it differentiates them from any other type of visitor to the site. By being able to segment this traffic and now attribute a specific value to that visit versus another visit, we now have some insight into how to really shape these SEO and PPC marketing efforts. So based on an initial perspective, they have a very simple SEO objective. And that is they want to increase the site's visibility in organic search through improved rankings for their target keywords. And that's really pretty standard approach to SEO. And that means that the way they plan on executing is to hire an SEO company to optimize their site's performance for a bunch of pre-selected keywords. They have the meeting internally and they say, we want to show up number one or close to it for bird watching, whale watching, bear watching, and then bird watching California, whale watching British Columbia, and so on, in order to really capture all of those services and locations shown earlier. Now, what does this approach really boil down to? Well, there's a high cost of tactical implementation because all these pages are going to be optimized equally without any attention being paid to which ones have the best chance for success and driving real business results. The competitiveness of the keyword targets is also very high because the most trafficked keywords, not surprisingly, are generally also the most competitive. The SEO contribution to marketing ROI, unfortunately, is likely to be very low here because increased traffic volumes alone don't necessarily guarantee that it's going to turn into, that every incremental visit is going to turn into business. So even though there's no media cost, you're still looking at significant resource allocation with no guarantee of ROI. And this is often considered a controversial topic, the idea that SEO is a cost center. But again, as I alluded to in the beginning, it's very important to appreciate that even though you're not paying on a per-click basis, the hours spent optimizing a site on the server side, on the content side, it is a tremendous amount of work to do it right, and therefore it should be considered a major cost center.